Tonight, the AEW World Championship is on the line as AEW World Champion Kenny Omega defends the AEW World Championship against Christian Cage in what has just been confirmed to be, well, by Dave Meltzer, so it's pretty much confirmed, especially when it comes to AEW stuff, but what has just been confirmed to be the main event of the show, because tonight, Kenny Omega is defending the AEW World Championship against Impact World Champion Christian Cage. Now, I say this has just been confirmed to be the main event because at the time of recording, about 10, 15, 20 minutes ago or so, Dave Meltzer confirmed that Kenny Omega versus Christian Cage is indeed going on last night, which a lot of people have been saying, oh no, ooh, I'm not sure about that one. Kenny Omega, Christian Cage going on last? Now, usually, wouldn't be much of a massive problem. I think a big criticism going into this match, and I think myself included, I've said this, is that it doesn't feel... Kenny Omega versus Christian Cage for the AEW World Championship doesn't feel like a main event for an All Out. You have 4 pay-per-views a year. You've got Revolution, you've got All Out, Double or Nothing, Full Gear, not in that order. But you've got those pay-per-views, and it kind of just feel like they need to be big, ginormous matches. And Kenny Omega versus Christian Cage kind of feels like a TV special main event at best. No disrespect to Christian Cage, but that's just kind of what it feels like. Now, obviously, they've done their best. They've done their best to make you think that Christian Cage could have a chance. Because that's one of the biggest problems going into this one, isn't it? Is that it just feels like constantly Christian Cage doesn't have a chance. There's no way in a million years that Kenny Omega is going to drop the AEW World Championship. Which, of course, I don't think he is going to, by the way. I don't think Omega's going to drop the title, but... there's certainly a bit of a feeling, isn't there, going into it, like it's definitely not going to happen. So that's why they had the match on the first episode of Rampage for the Impact World Championship, which, of course, Christian Cage won, and he's now the Impact World Champion. They did that, in my opinion, purely to give the fans a feeling of, well, you never know. He's already beaten him once, so what's to say he won't do it again? But this time for the AEW World Championship. Now, I don't think that Christian Cage is going to win the AEW World Championship. But again, they did that to place an element of doubt in your minds. I think they also did it to keep, of course, Christian Cage's undefeated streak ongoing, because he is, of course, undefeated in singles action. He's never been pinned or submitted since returning to pro wrestling, I guess. He's never been pinned or submitted since signing with AEW. Of course, he did lose technically in the Casino Battle Royale at Double or Nothing back in May. He was the final person eliminated by Jungle Boy, but he's never been pinned since he returned to, or came to AEW back in March at Revolution. So this has kind of been building, to be honest, since then. In that first post-Revolution episode of AEW Dynamite, Christian Cage confronted Kenny Omega. So I think a lot of people thought, well, we're going to be building to this at some point. I think myself, I did kind of think that maybe it would be coming at Double or Nothing as opposed to All Out, but that's not the case. It's All Out instead. And again, it is a case of maybe it doesn't feel like it's big enough for a pay-per-view, for one of their 4 pay-per-view events a year. But what I will say about it is that I think there is a reason as to why this is going to be going on last. Because people obviously will say, well, CM Punk's the main event. And look, CM Punk is the main event. He's just not going on last. And I know people say, well, that was part of the problem in WWE with CM Punk, right? When it comes to like WrestleManias and stuff like that, and they would say to him, you are the main event, but you're not going on last. CM Punk, of course, is the big selling point of this show, and he is the main event on paper, because that's all that people are talking about going into it. Are they talking about Kenny Omega versus Christian Cage? The answer is no. When the conversation comes up, they'll say it's going to be a great match, and I'm sure it will be a great match, but we all know who's going to win this match. It's going to be Kenny Omega. The match that everyone's talking about is CM Punk versus Darby Allin, because, of course, it's CM Punk's first match in over 7.5 years, so why wouldn't they be talking about that match? Of course they're going to be talking about that match. The reason I think this one goes on last is because I think we have a special surprise coming. And I think that special surprise coming is none other than the former WWE World Heavyweight Champion himself, the former Daniel Bryan. Bryan Danielson is set to make his AEW debut tonight. Now, that has been rumored. Significantly, of course, it's been rumored that Bryan Danielson has signed with AEW. Again, that's not been officially confirmed, but I think it was Bodyslam.net confirmed that he had indeed signed with the company. This was about 6 weeks ago, maybe even longer than that at this point, so it was a while ago. CM Punk's been just, heavily, it's not even really been teasing it. The only thing he hasn't said at this point is that Daniel Bryan has signed with AEW. That's the only thing he hasn't said at this point, is that Bryan Danielson signed with the company. Apart from that, he's been dropping all kind of hints, whether it's on Dynamite, whether it's in interviews, whether it's whatever, saying he hopes to wrestle Bryan Danielson one day again soon. And he is going to, because that's going to happen inside of an AEW ring, because Bryan Danielson is indeed about to become All Elite. Now, previously, it was reported that Bryan Danielson would be making his AEW debut on the Grand Slam edition of Dynamite in September, on September 22nd from Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York. Reportedly, that was moved up. The reason it was moved up to tonight on All Out is because plans changed because of potential other new names coming into AEW, but also plans changed because of a bit of uncertainty when it comes to that Grand Slam edition of Dynamite, when it comes to the new restrictions and mandates that have been added on in the state of New York and just across the country, frankly, when it comes to, obviously, COVID. So I think they looked at CM Punk's debut on AEW Rampage, the first dance, and they saw, you know what? We need another moment. We need another moment, and if we leave it to chance, if we leave this one to chance, who knows what's going to happen as we head into, late into the fall and into the winter? Who knows what could happen? And obviously, when it comes to the winter, when it comes to things like viruses, they tend to get worse and they tend to spread even more. And I just think AEW is probably looking at going, you know what? Let's not risk it. Let's get another great moment. We've got all of this momentum right now with CM Punk and other names that are scheduled to come in, whether it's Bray Wyatt or Ric Flair or possibly even Adam Cole as well. There are other names that can come and we can save for later on. So if that's the case, you know what? Why not pull the trigger on Bryan Danielson now? So I think when it comes to that, I think it makes a lot more sense that this match would go on last, because I think, and I've seen some people's reactions already on social media of going, the crowd's going to be dead, the crowd's going to be, no energy, the crowd only came to see CM Punk and his match and all that kind of stuff. I don't think that is going to be the case. The crowd might struggle for the Kenny Omega Christian Cage match. It's going to be a tough spot for them to win them over. There's no doubt about that. It depends when Punk goes on. If Punk goes on in the penultimate match, second from last, and you've got to follow that, that's tough. I don't know if they will go in that direction. If they were smart, they would put a match on after Punk and then have the main event. What that match should be, I don't know. I don't know what that match should be, but that would be the smart thing to do. I think the reason that they're going on last, and again, Omega and Cage, they won't struggle to have a good match because the match will be very good. It depends how long the card goes. If we're talking like 4.5 hours at that point, I mean, Double or Nothing was very long. It was like 5 hours or something like that altogether. So if we're getting to that kind of length for the show, and then it comes to Omega and then Cage, the crowd are going to be tired because of the matches they've seen previously and just the length of the show. So that will be tough for them to win them over, but we're talking about two tremendous pro wrestlers here, some of the best, and one that's obviously incredibly experienced like Christian, and Kenny Omega, one of the best in the world as well. So if anyone can win that crowd over, and not win them over, but get them back up, and get them back up and excited and into the match, certainly they can do it. So I would certainly have faith that they can do that. The reason that they're going on last, like I said, is because Bryan Danielson, the way that I see this match ending, I see Kenny Omega retaining the AEW World Championship. I see him hitting the One-Winged Angel, which he hasn't hit on Christian Cage yet, as far as I'm aware, right? He hasn't hit the One-Winged Angel on Christian Cage as of right now. I think he hits it. I think he gets the win. I think he's holding up the AEW World Championship and his AAA Mega Championship. And then this is what I hope. I think Bryan Danielson then makes his debut. What he comes out to, though, is another question altogether, isn't it? What he comes out to, whether it is, I mean, I would hope, my real genuine hope is that he comes out to the Final Countdown by Europe, obviously. That was the song he came out to on the independent scene. That's the song he came out to in Ring of Honor. And I just think it would be tremendous. And it's obviously an amazing song. But it would just be awesome because it would be Bryan Daniel, and that's what he's going to be. He's not going to be Daniel Bryan. Of course, he can't use that name, but he's not going to be Daniel Bryan. It's going to be Bryan Danielson. Bryan Danielson's different to Daniel Bryan. And if he's going to be Bryan Danielson again, people are going to expect Bryan Danielson from Ring of Honor and Bryan Danielson from the independent scene. They want to take all the good bits of Daniel Bryan from WWE, but they also want to take the good bits of Bryan Danielson that he had to leave behind when he went to WWE. And one of those things is the Final Countdown. Whether or not that's feasible or not, just monetarily, I don't know if that's the case. It's been widely reported, and a lot of people have speculated that the licensing fees for the Final Countdown are astronomical, and we're talking millions and millions and millions of dollars. I think Ring of Honor obviously tried to do it in the past when Daniel Bryan was coming out to that, or at least they inquired about it just to use it, say, on like a pay-per-view or something like that. And they were basically quoted a figure that was huge and absolutely massive. Whether that's the same now, I don't know. I really don't know if that's the case now. I don't know if it's the case of, Tony Khan has licensed other songs before, so it's not out of the realm of possibility he could do that. I mean, Orange Cassidy comes out to the Pixies' Where Is My Mind? I don't know how expensive that song is, but, it's a possibility. It's a possibility that it could be done. And, again, I don't know if it's kind of negotiable or not. If it's just for one pay-per-view, then maybe it's a lot of money. But if Tony Khan can reach an agreement whereby it's a case of, look, not only is it going to be on a pay-per-view, but it's going to be every single week. It's going to be for 1 million people on Dynamite on Wednesdays and for near 1 million people for Rampage on Fridays. And if that's going on 52 weeks a year, that's not bad for you. That's not bad for you. The song makes a lot of money anyway, but certainly would make a lot more considering it'd be on TV twice a week, 52 weeks of the year. That's not bad. So how feasible that is? I mean, Tony Khan's much of a maniac that he'll do it, because he's that much of a pro wrestling fan. I spoke about this in the AEW news video I did earlier today, and Punk spoke on it, that some people criticize Tony Khan. He's just a mark. Oh, he's just a money mark. He's just a fan of pro wrestling. The fact that he's a fan of pro wrestling is the reason that he would do it. He would look at that and go, tell you what, I don't care that it's like $1 million. I'll do it. I'll do it. Not $1 million to play every time. That would be astronomical. We'd be talking like 52, well, double it. We're talking over 100 million a year for Daniel Bryan's entrance. That'd be the most expensive entrance of all time. So look, maybe it's feasible, maybe it's not. I don't know. If it's not that, then I think they could obviously just do a version of his WWE theme song, because of course that's Flight of the Valkyries, isn't it? So that's just a generic theme anyway that they can license for nothing pretty much, and they could do their own version of that. So obviously if they couldn't do the final countdown, then obviously they would go with that, which isn't bad, of course. And at the end of the day, it's not a hill to die on. If they can't do it, they can't do it. Bryan Danielson being in an AEW is the big thing there, not the fact that he doesn't come out to the final countdown. But I just think we almost have expectations of this company at this point that they're so great when it comes to fan service, aren't they? They really are. AEW and Tony Khan and everyone is really in touch with giving the fans what they want. They do listen, and it is refreshing, because of course sometimes with WWE they don't give you what you want, and some people will say, well, that's about heat, you can't always get what you want, blah blah blah. But what happened to the customer always being right and the fans always being right? Vince McMahon likes to say it all the time. We listen to the fans and we give them what they want. Do they? And Tony Khan, again, is much of a maniac that he'd do it. He'd do the final countdown if he can. If feasibly he can. So whether or not we should expect it or not, I don't know. I can't answer that question or not. But again, I think that's why this match is going on last. Whilst it is going to be difficult, definitely very, very difficult to follow CM Punk and Darby Allin, and that crowd is there to see CM Punk and Darby Allin. I have no doubts about that. And a lot of people are tuning in to watch CM Punk have his first match in 7.5 years. I mean, the expectation is, and I say expectation, but all signs are already indicating that this will be AEW's most purchased pay-per-view in its history. It will be AEW Revolution earlier this year. I have no doubts about that because of Punk being on the show. And again, because of that, I think that does factor into Bryan Danielson making his debut tonight as well. I think a lot of things go into it. So it's whilst Punk is the main event, but he's not going on last, it makes it even more challenging. They have a lot of challenges in this match. They really do. One, making it believable that Christian Cage can actually win the match and win the AEW World Championship. They've done everything they can, in fairness to them, to try and place that seed of doubt in your mind. They'd also then have to overcome the issue of having to perform in front of what is going to be a tired crowd. It's going to be a tired crowd that came to watch CM Punk and is going to be happy that they watched CM Punk. But also as well with the rumors going around, because it's not hardly a great secret that Bryan Danielson's probably going to make his AEW debut tonight. With that in mind as well, that crowd not only is going to be tired from the Punk match, so they're struggling to get up for this one, but they're also already going to be thinking about after the match. So they're just going to be waiting for this match to end because they're like, oh, Bryan Danielson can come out and then I can go home because it's been a long show. So it's going to be a difficult spot. Absolutely is going to be a difficult spot for Omega and Christian to come in. Again, if it wasn't for the Bryan Danielson debut, I don't know if this would have main evented, because it would have been a very predictable finish that Omega wins and then they go home. Obviously, I suppose when it comes from a traditionalist point of view as well, if you're just thinking about how does a professional wrestling pay-per-view event, lay out anyway, the world title match should always, main event the show. I know there are extenuating circumstances, but most of the time you would argue, hey, it should main event the show, and I guess that's the same here. But if you're asking me for a prediction, I think it's the prediction that everyone else is going for, and that's that Kenny Omega leaves Chicago, leaves All Out, still the AEW World Champion, but I think this will be the match that Bryan Danielson makes his AEW debut, and I'm very, very excited for it. Obviously, I'm excited for Punk, but I'm also very excited for Bryan tonight as well, and I think it's going to be the shot that AEW goes off the air with, and I think it's going to be the shot that everyone is talking about once this show goes off the air. But look, guys, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on Kenny Omega versus Christian Cage tonight for the AEW World Championship? Let me know your predictions in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about AEW, Impact Wrestling, WWE, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community. Drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube. Got the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe. I'll get there in the end. To Wrestling News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now. Or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or have you come across this video today. And I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.